Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey everybody, we're back with episode 15 of the Civil Gore podcast.
Yes, hello Tim, how are you?
I'm doing well. I just got back from Carowinds, which I haven't visited yet.
Yes, same here.
Through the power of podcasting time travel.
Yes. Oh, and just to get out of the way so people are not waiting with bated breath, dulcet tones, dulcet tones, dulcet tones. So
we've gotten a few complaints about how often we say that, which only makes us want to say it even more.
Yeah, sorry. We're like that little kid and seeing a giant red button, you know, and telling us not to touch it. But sorry. So as you're listening to this, this was the second episode of our 3 pre-recorded episodes that we did because we were on travel. But we're going to make this one a full episode, and we're doing a great little anthology film called Trilogy of Terror. Yes, which was actually really, really enjoyable. So it should be fun to talk about.
Yeah, but before we get to that, let's go through our first chop.
And as you just heard, that was a great new sound effect that we had that was sent to us by my good friend Paul Kramer. Paul and I went to film school together, and we're definitely gonna have him on the show because we have a good history of horror together. He got me really into a lot of cool horror movies back in the day. We actually even shot one, which was infamous amongst our circuit of friends in college. Which we'll have to talk about, but we'll definitely have to have Paul on the show. Because actually, he heard our show where we were saying how we need to find a good sound, and he actually pieced together, I think he said 10 different sound effects to get us that great sound. So thank you, Paul. Yeah. That was awesome. And
thanks, Paul. That was really incredible.
Yeah, and so we'll definitely have you on the show because I know we'll have. I mean, I could see this being when Paul comes on having a really either possibly even a 2-part episode because Paul definitely going to give him some time to talk about all his amazing films that he's done and just catch up with some stuff and give his take on what he thinks horror is today and what are some of his favorites. So I think that'll be a fun episode. So once again, thank you, Paul, for your and you could be like Paul too if you guys have any kind of input too. You want to send us, even if it's just like some suggestions. But
yep, because we still need a dismemberment sound.
Yeah.
But first, before we get to that, I saw Alien Covenant.
Oh, you're lucky. I'm jealous.
We went Friday night for opening, and we saw it on the big, it's our theater's version of IMAX. It's not really a true IMAX, but it's a larger than usual screen.
It's like Minimax.
Yeah, sort of like that, and it's Dolby Atmos sound, so it's really, really cool. And I have to say that I have heard a lot of mixed reviews on this movie, and it seems to be one of those movies that divides people into either the love it or hate it camp.
Kind of like Prometheus, right?
Kind of like Prometheus. Now, personally, I absolutely loved it. My wife loved it, and she's not she likes Alien, but she's a very casual fan. She's probably only seen the first 2, and I know she hasn't seen Prometheus. Now, this movie, and whether you like it or not, is pretty much going to hinge on your thoughts on Prometheus because it is a true sequel to Prometheus. It takes place 10 years later. And it has more in common with that movie than it does most of the other Alien films. Now, I was trying to explain to somebody why I enjoyed this movie and why I thought some people don't enjoy it. And I came to the conclusion that the Alien franchise has some very disparate styles within it. So Alien was almost a straight-up horror film. Aliens was almost a straight-up action film. And then you had Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, which kind of tried to straddle the line between the two.
Yeah, I didn't like Alien 3.
Yeah.
I know that's one of those ones that some people really loved it. And some people didn't like it. And just the one thing I remember, I don't know if you remember this about Alien 3 real quick. And not to interrupt your review, but this always kind of, some people don't remember this, but I remember it clearly. I remember sitting in a theater and seeing the first teaser for Alien 3 that was, I think it was released maybe almost a full year before it finally came out. And I still remember this thing where it was just a slow zoom out shot of like that, that eggish, like the poster art for the first one. It's kind of just zooming out, and it said like in 1980 you learn that in space no one can hear you scream. And it was like in 19 whatever year it was where it was coming out, on Earth everyone will hear you scream. And then just went like Alien 3 or whatever, and I'm just like, wow, that's gonna be cool, they're coming to Earth. That's what I thought. So I remember when I finally saw Alien 3 and it was not that at all, I was like, what the hell? Totally
disappointment.
Oh, big time anticipation. And the funniest thing, one quick story. My friend, I was living in California at the time. My friend Mark was coming out to visit, and I was telling him, I said, oh, and Alien 3 will be out. We got to go see it. And so he's like, okay. And I sensed a weird tone in his voice when he kept saying, okay, yeah, we'll go see it when you come out there. And so we went out and saw it, and it wasn't until after the movie, and I'm like, oh my God, that was bad. And he said something like, yeah, well, at least you didn't have to see it twice. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Well, that's a good friend.
Yeah, so he sat through that twice for me because he didn't want to like disappoint me. I said, why? You could have told me. I said I would have. I said, I think I hate you more now right now that you made me watch it. But yeah, so it was kind of a funny thing. So he was definitely a good friend and a bad friend at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some people that really like the action horror type alien stuff, and then there's a lot of people that like the Prometheus, like the mythology and lore behind them, which I kind of straddle both camps because I like them all for different reasons, and I can kind of change my expectation based on what I'm watching. Now, Prometheus I thought was a little slow, but I still enjoyed it. I didn't hate it like most people did.
Right, yeah, it was a little slow, but I thought it was really enjoyable.
So what Ridley Scott did with Alien Covenant is he's not going to give up on the mythology that he created in Prometheus. So yeah, he has a definite story arc that he wants to tell. And so he definitely tells that story in Covenant, but he also tries to add enough of the other elements of the franchise that people love, the scares and the action, to maybe please the people that were bored by Prometheus. If you didn't totally despise Prometheus, you will probably at least like Covenant, and you may even love it depending on your tolerance for the backstory stuff. But I loved it. I thought it was awesome, and I can't wait. I think he's got 2 more sequels planned.
Oh, cool.
That he's actually writing now, so I can't wait to see him.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I know. I'll have to say, probably I won't get a chance to see it until I get back. And the funny thing is, I was going to try and fit it in this week with my my friend Mark, Mr. Alien 3. We were going to try and see it on Wednesday, but I'm just like, that's the day before we leave, and head out. And I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off, and then still have enough rest for the crazy coaster death march, as we so fondly called it amongst our group of friends, the following week. And I'm like, it should be there. In reality, at this time of year, it should be there for at least another a month out in the theater, so I should be able to catch it when we get back. So,
oh yeah, you'll be able to see it. Do you have anything for the first chop, Brian, or we move right on?
No, just other than I can't really talk too much about what I watched because it was the new Twin Peaks. I watched actually the first 4 episodes because they debuted the first 2 on Showtime, but actually on Showtime Anytime they had episodes 3 and 4. So when I was exhausted, about to go to bed after watching the first 2 episodes, I happened to catch a tweet of someone saying, "Hey, by the way, episodes 3 and 4 are on Showtime, the Showtime app," and I'm like, you know what? Great. There's no way now I could go to sleep knowing that those episodes are on there. So I sat up for another 2 hours. I did watch it in bed on my iPad. I just flipped it on and headphones on so I didn't wake Julie. And I watched episodes 3 and 4, which went on to still kind of confuse me even more with what's going on, but it was still great. I'm glad. So I can't wait to see where the rest of these episodes go. So, but like I said, I can't talk about it because Tim's still getting through his backlog of the original series, which he likes, and so I have to hold off. But he'll catch up. As you know, Tim is very dedicated to his backlog projects, as you know, so he will creep through that fast.
Yeah, I put the backlog project on hold for the Twin Peaks project, so I'm juggling projects at this point.
See, and the thing about Twin Peaks is once you start watching it, it's hard to put down anyway. It's hard to stop. So
yeah, I blew through the first season in like 2 days.
Yeah, and so the second one picks up. It starts to get really got a lot of cool supernatural elements to it. So you'll be rolling through those in no time.
Yep. Okay, so we have the Blu-ray releases for June 6th, and I'm going to just run through these fairly quickly because I don't know anything about any of these.
Yeah.
What a bad horror.
I will second that.
The first one is The Axe Murders of Vasilla, 2016. Vasilla is a ghost story based on the house where the notorious and still unsolved 1912 axe murders took place. So 3 teenagers break into this house, searching for answers, but discover something far beyond their worst fears. That's from the IMDb description.
And I'm going to make a comment on that. I know this will probably be my weekly firing off the podcast, but I think I heard that originally, since Mike Myers stars in this, it was going to be So I Married the Axe Murderers of Vasilla. But, sorry, no, that's...
Fired.
There we go. Okay, I had to do it. There's a couple of things
Thanks,
we just
Brian.
have to get done every week on this show. That's one of them. Okay.
Then we have Van Helsing Season 1. I never watched this one. It looked kind of hokey to me, but maybe it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, well...
That's the TV series, I think, where Van Helsing is a woman.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Which I have no problem with.
No,
cool,
I kind of like when they twist it up like that. Like we were talking about how the new Mummy is a woman role, which is kind of cool. So I like that.
Yeah, having a daughter, I don't mind female role models at all, but that would still just look kind of, I don't know. The whole Van Helsing thing tends to be kind of, I don't know, jokey at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Why'd they call her like Jan Helsing though? It's like...
Vanessa. It's short for Vanessa.
Oh, okay. You know what? Okay, that's better than my poorly timed joke. Apparently. Okay, good. All right.
All right, and then we have A Cure for Wellness, 2016. So this is an ambitious young executive is sent to retrieve his company's CEO from a wellness center at a remote location in the Alps, but soon suspects that the spa's treatments are not what they seem. That's the thing with horror movies. Everything is not what it seems. If stuff would just be what it seems, we wouldn't have to worry about this stuff.
But then we might not have a podcast either.
Well, that's true.
But you figure though at some point in this movie, the first kind of thing where the sequence where you kind of think it's not what you seem, that's the point where they should just say, okay, you know what, I gotta get out of here. But then again, we wouldn't have all these horribly cheesy movies sometimes, and I guess it keeps us employed in the podcasting world, and I say employed with quotes because we're not getting paid.
Because we make so much money.
Yeah,
podcasting.
We spend way more, and the fact is, it's not as like I spend enough on Blu-rays, but this horror movie podcast here has got me to purchase at a little bit more of a rate than I had been, which is not good for anybody.
No.
Except Best Buy and Amazon.
Yeah, Best Buy is profiting from our podcast.
Best Buy and Amazon. I swear to God, they should be supporting us for what we do for them.
Child of Satan, 2017. I could not find anything about this movie. It must be. I think it may be foreign, and I just don't know the other foreign title for it.
Yeah, it's one of those.
So forgive me. And then finally we have Aaron's Blood, which this one actually looked pretty cool, and it got a decent rating on IMDb where it says single father Aaron fights to save his 12-year-old hemophiliac son after becoming infected with vampire blood. So I in my mind, I'm kind of thinking of that Schwarzenegger movie, Maggie.
Oh, I love that movie, by the way.
Yeah, that was a good movie, but kind of with a vampire twist
right.
instead of a zombie twist. I don't know that for sure. Just that's what it reminded me of when I read the synopsis. So,
but now, and I'm not trying to in any way mock a hemophiliac at this point, but wouldn't that? I mean, if I guess if the vampire's blood is in there, I mean, they have trouble clotting, is what a hemophiliac. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be able to get that out faster at some level? Because they're probably getting infusions, I know. So wouldn't, just to be on the real level here, wouldn't the constant infusions kind of wipe that out? But I don't know. It could be.
Suspend your medical brain at the door.
I know.
Brian.
Yeah. Sorry. Boy, I'm just bombing on this podcast. I'll tell you, 3 in 2 nights is too much for me.
No more triple features for us.
No, that's we gotta we have to to maybe do a couple of twosies every now and then, so we don't have to do one of these marathon sessions in a row.
Finally, we have the theatrical releases for June 2nd, which is Dark Signal. The spirit of a murdered girl returns with a message for the staff of a local radio station. So it's one of those movies that sounds like they thought of the name first, and they were like, I know a name, Dark Signal.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, radio stations have signals.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Where can we go from here? It's like that's funny. And why the radio station? What's the significance in that? It's like why does she have a message for them? I don't know, and it actually kind of almost sounds like they took one little mini sequence from the mini plot point from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and then, how they remember with the radio host. Maybe they went from there. I don't know. Maybe that inspired them.
Well, that makes me think of our 12th Kickstarter, which will be a haunted podcast.
Oh, yes.
Where the demon, the tortured girl comes back and haunts our podcast.
That would be cool. I don't think that's been done yet, so I think we might have to bump that up to Kickstarter 1. Ghost in the Casket may have to drop down a peg. Gotta get that one before someone steals it.
I don't know what the audience would be, because most people don't even know what a podcast is.
True. Yeah, unless you're in our circle of friends, which we know way too many podcasts, and at some level.
You have to be a nerd. You have to be a nerd.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk Trilogy of Terror.
Yes.
Trilogy of Terror was a made-for-TV movie, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because it's a darn good one.
Yeah, as far as made-for-TV movies go, I mean, you think and from at the time period this was made, it was before they were this kind of, they really weren't that inventive on television back at that point.
Yeah, and it was directed by Dan Curtis, and it was written. This is what I found really cool about this anthology that I never knew, was that Richard Matheson wrote all of the story segments.
Oh, okay.
No, he didn't. Now, William F. Nolan wrote the teleplay pieces for 2 of the segments, but Richard Matheson actually wrote the stories. Yeah, and Richard Matheson's one of my favorite authors. He wrote I Am Legend, Hell House, which I believe was the basis of The Haunting of Hell House, the film. And a lot of his books have been made into movies. What Dreams May Come, which was that Robin Williams movie. Yeah. Stir of Echoes.
I like that one. I like
Yeah.
I think there were 2, right? The first one was good. I don't remember this.
Yeah, he crossed. It was really cool because he wrote sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. So he was really this really cool genre author.
Well, if you think about it, I Am Legend kind of had both of those elements to it. That it was the mix. It had that sci-fi horror element to it.
He wrote the Duel. That
the Spielberg one?
Movie.
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay.
He wrote that. So he's one of those authors that was kind of like, he wrote a lot of stuff that you didn't know that he wrote, basically.
Oh, and we're here to tell the people that. So good job, Tim.
A perfect example, he wrote Trilogy of Terror, which I did not know.
Hey, there you go.
So the other unique thing about this anthology is every segment stars Karen Black.
Who is different in every one, too. In fact, in the second one, she's different twice, which we'll get to.
I've always loved Karen Black, but in this film is so cool how what a chameleon she is.
Oh my god!
You don't usually see that with women. You see that with men character actors a lot. You see this one guy that can really change his appearance, but women actors, I think it's sometimes harder for them to pull that off, where they act completely different.
Yeah,
or seem completely different. Yeah,
and she was actually. It almost looked as if they had her so into each character that she was in the 3 different stories. It almost looked like they could have filmed them in different years. I mean, at some level, because she had this she almost looked completely different in the third short in that movie than she did in the other 2. And then one way when she had the blonde wig on, she looked completely different and a lot younger. It's weird how they but I think it's a lot. It's not just the slapping a wig on her and changing her outfit. It was her whole demeanor. She did it so good.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. I'm not disparaging in any way the talent of actresses versus actors. I think what happens is a lot of time actresses are supposed to be glamorous, so they're always dolled up and glamorous. And then the only way they change that character is they have that one role where Charlize Theron.
I was just thinking that when you said
Monster,
that. Yeah.
okay, we're gonna film you without makeup, and everybody's like, oh my god, I couldn't even recognize her because they took their makeup.
Yeah, and she gained I think 20 pounds to make sure.
Yeah, whereas guys aren't always made up like that, so they're it's easier, I guess, for them, and for better or for worse, to be these different people, at least appearance wise. But man, she does an awesome job in this. I honestly, if I had watched this and had not known she was in every segment, I would have swore to you that was a different actress in every segment.
Right. That's what I was saying. It was because it was, and it was just so, some of them were such a stark contrast to what she looked like in the previous episode that you're just like, wow. And and again, it was her performance in it that really cemented it. It wasn't just, hey, we're gonna give her a different outfit. We're going to make her all like nerdy teacher in the first one, and we're going to make her, I guess she was kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? And with the blonde one, she was like a tease in the second one, and a troublemaker, like a vixen kind of in the
that proves my point. That's what makes it more impressive is they didn't just do, okay, this one she's glamorous and this one she has no makeup on.
Right.
They were all like beautiful women in their own way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
it was her performance.
Yeah. And in the third one, she's the only actor in that, and she's the only one. Every conversation she has is either on the phone or to herself, and or to the creature thing. But but she's not. So she had to. It's like a one woman show in more ways than one, and specifically in that last segment, which was she just basically owned the whole segment.
Yeah, and God bless her, she worked up until her death.
Yeah.
So she died in 2013 at the age of 74, and she was still making movies in 2013.
Yeah, she's one of those horror icons that, as far as, even though she's, a lot of people there, give her a lot of props. I still don't think she gets enough for her career that she's done, so. Especially, she was great in the Rob Zombie Thousand. I don't know why I couldn't remember the House of a Thousand Corpses. And so but how old was she then? She was up there, right?
House of a Thousand Corpses was 2003.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that was 10 years before she died. So she was in her 60s.
Yeah, and so and she's still, she was still like doing great jobs, but right up until then. So.
Yeah, and you should just go look at her IMDb page because it's just, you have to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. She's got so many credits in TV and movies and shorts, and 200 credits as an actress alone.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And think about it, she technically gets 4 credits for this film alone.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of that, let's get right into it. So one interesting thing about this anthology is it has no wraparound story. Which is a little
It barely has an opening credit sequence. It just kind of goes right in.
And am I crazy, or did they use the font from Little House on the Prairie?
I think so. They might have. You almost expected to see little Laura Ingalls come running over the hill.
Yeah, because I watch a lot of Little House on the Prairie. I'm a big Little House on the Prairie fan, as is Kevin. He's the one that got me into it. And the minute I saw the fonts come up, I was like, this looks like the start of a Little House on the Prairie episode.
Yeah. I think that was back in the day when there were really like 5 fonts you could use.
Yeah, probably.
Like, I don't think they had Comic Sans back then, even though that font shouldn't be used that often anyway. But yeah, so that was before like fonts were a thing. But so they probably just like, let's see, we got Little House on the Prairie or Matlock. What do we use?
Yeah. So the first story, and what's interesting about the segment that everybody remembers from this movie is the third one.
Right, which is the box art, basically, the pictures you see and stuff.
Which we'll get to in a minute, but nobody remembers the first 2. They always remember the third. But I was surprised that the first 2 are actually really good.
Yeah, they are. The first one actually was kind of like, it kind of threw me for a loop. I don't think I expected that twist in it.
Yeah, but the first 2 segments are so different in tone from the third one.
Right.
That I think that's why a lot of people only remember the third one.
Right. And they did it good. They were smart because they paced them in the perfect order. I think that you would have to do this. When you have the 3 that you have in front of you, they did it in the perfect order, I think.
So there's 3 segments. The first segment is called Julie.
Yeah, I kind of gave a chuckle to that. Actually, when I started to watch it last night, and I tapped Julie. I'm like, look, the first store's named Julie.
we have to preface this by the characters in this movie are not. What is that warning they always give? Are not based on fictional, are not based on real people.
Yes, and the fact that I'm still alive proves that case.
So it starts off these two college guys are out there talking in front of the community college and, making eyes at all the ladies and stuff. And they see this teacher, who is, of course, is Karen Black, come up. And one of the guys just kind of gets this creepy... this whole segment kind of creepy.
Yeah, the whole thing was creepy.
He gets kind of this creepy thing and basically says something to the effect of, I wonder what she looks like with her clothes off.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And if this was made a couple years later, you'd have that I'm hot for teacher, playing in the background.
But this escalates. So now he's like leering at her in class and kind of like
trying to impress her. Yeah, like with his answer.
Trying to impress her. Like he's getting obsessed with her. And he finally gets to the point where he asks her out on a date to the movies. And she actually, she plays a little hard to get, right?
And she's like one of those homebodies they play her off as, where she doesn't really, like her roommates, I guess, telling her she never goes out. And
yeah, and it's also important to note that she's not very, she's pretty, but she's not like beautiful. She's got big glasses. She's like got her hair pulled out in a bun. She's not trying to look sexy.
She's actually trying to cover all bits of sexuality. Yeah. But then you find she does a subtle thing in the classroom, but
it makes his obsession with her all the more kind of weird.
Right.
Because it's not like she's like this bombshell that walked in. So anyway, he convinces her to go to the drive-in with him. Which they do, which was an awesome drive-in. It makes me miss drive-ins.
There used to be actually one of the last drive-ins in New York used to be right by my parents' house, and they turned it into a BJ's and a wholesale, one of those BJ's like a Costco type of place, and a big multiplex cinema. But it was kind of sad because it was actually to the point it was so close to my house that if you stood in our backyard and you looked, you can kind of see like the lights flashing from the theater for what was on the screen. So it's kind of a shame that I did not ever get use of that the way I could have back in the day. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, he slips her a drug in her drink at the drive-in, and she passes out. And like I said, this whole section was very, very creepy. Like, I was kind of... Even for a made-for-TV movie, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Because this has date rape and all this weird stuff in it. Anyway, so he basically takes her to a hotel room, and we don't see exactly what happens, but we know through some flashbacks of his fantasies or whatever that he's taken some pictures of her, compromising pictures of her.
Right.
Okay. At the very least, that's what
at least that. Who knows what else he might have done? I mean, and then they imply almost like a gang rape type of sequence at one point where he's like, I want you to come over and see my friends want to meet you or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
very bizarre. But he basically at this point blackmails her because he tells her that he has these pictures because she finds out that, he did drug her. He basically comes right out and admits it. And he holds these pictures over her head because now that's what I was thinking here was if you made this today, she would probably just go straight to the principal or whatever and get this guy slapped for sexual harassment.
Right. And
without
and it's funny. Another thing you said too, if it was today, he would have literally been able to blackmail her that very night. But instead, he had to wait and go home and develop the pictures of himself because he just happened to have a dark room like everyone had in the 70s, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. He just posted them on the internet.
Yeah, right? I mean, he could basically say, by the way, if you don't... by the way, before I drop you off, let me just tell you, I'm about to blackmail you. These are going on the internet. But no, you had to wait till the next day.
So anyway, so I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, at this point, I was like, why doesn't she just tell this guy to go to hell, and explain all this? And because I was really not liking this guy at this point.
Right, and she came off as being really super, super smart, and you figure she wouldn't have so much trouble figuring her way out of this situation.
Right. So finally he wants her to come over. Again, he's almost forcing her to come over to his place whenever he wants to. At this point, he feels like this has given him complete control over her.
Right.
And he wants her to come over to his apartment for dinner and sex, obviously.
Yeah.
And this is where the tables turn.
Right.
And Julie announces that she's actually been playing him the whole time. And she kind of reminds him, like, why do you think you all of a sudden had these feelings towards me? And who do you think actually seduced you?
Right. She's like, who do you think was in control all the time or something?
Like
yeah,
she seduced him. He didn't hold anything over her, and that he's completely underestimated her. And of course, he's baffled at all this, and then realizes too late that she has slipped something into his drink.
Right. She's a lot stronger than whatever he gave her.
Right. So she doesn't just take pictures, she actually kills him.
Right.
Because she has poisoned him. And so he falls to the floor and dies. She drags his body into the dark room, sets fire to all the photographs, and makes it look like he burned himself to a crisp, developing photographs, apparently.
Right.
Because I guess those chemicals are highly flammable.
Right, yeah. Well, it seemed like she just dropped the match in, and the whole thing went up in flames instantly.
So as we close this segment, we see her kind of flipping through a scrapbook of all the other students that we presume she's also done the same scheme to, where she's seduced them and then murdered them after she got bored with them, as she says.
Yeah, and the funny thing is about that, you figure the detectives back in that time period must have been horrible, that they have not pieced together the one similarity that all these kids had, and no one saw them ever together, ever, it's just... So, and
I have to say, I was kind of upset that I didn't see the twist coming, because it's not a very original idea.
No, not at all. Yeah, and that's what I was like, that's what I said. I was like surprised actually at that twist. I thought she was like, I had the feeling she was going to eventually turn the tables on him, just because, usually when you get a guy like that, that's such like an a-hole, he's going to get what's coming to him. Like, I didn't know how she was going to do it, what she was going to do, but I definitely did not expect a twist that she was playing him the whole time. And it's funny, if you go back and you look at it, like the perfect scene is when she, right after he answers the question, she flat out lifts her, opens her kind of skirt a little bit, and puts out her bare leg right in front of him, after she knows he's definitely paying attention because he had just answered the question. And then if you think about the other clues in there, the fact that she carries all these books, so she intentionally drops one right in front of him to get him to pick it up. And so it's like she's always leaving these little things to make it look like he's doing something for her, when instead he's just falling into her trap. Which is actually pretty, and she read him perfectly. She knows, okay, this guy obviously now wants me, so I'm going to play hard to get, and this guy's such a tool that he's going to fall for it.
It's hard to describe it and convey how entertaining it was, but I really enjoyed this segment.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I guess maybe it's the performances or whatever.
Yeah, because she's so good, and she owns the screen whenever she's on it. So
now, Brian, I'm gonna let you take this second one, because this is a shorter segment.
Yeah, very short, but
it was a little complex in terms of what's going on. So I'm gonna let you take this one.
Yeah. So this one's and it's funny. I have to be honest. I kind of figured this one out pretty quickly, the twist to this one. I was
gonna say the same thing. I almost had it figured out from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious. It's basically, it starts with it almost is funny. She kind of looks resembling to like the character in the first one, where she's kind of like this homely woman, and she's kind of writing in something, and it's kind of doing a lot of voiceovers, basically saying how her sister is this like horrible person and everything. And I guess who's the guy that comes over the first one though? Who was that? Was that like that guy that she first tells her how horrible her sister is, and she's like, "Oh, she needs help," and then
his name was Thomas.
But who was he again? I forgot. Like, what was he? Was he just a friend or another doctor? Or
yeah, I think he was just a friend.
Oh, he's a friend. Yeah, and when he goes, "No, I think you're the one that needs help," I'm like, right. I said that's where I picked up on it, because I'm like, basically, I don't know if it was maybe the way the first one twisted. I kind of was like open to a twist. So I kind of guessed. I'm like, all right, I have a feeling that. So basically, you find out that she literally, I mean, you don't find out till the end, but, in reality, but you kind of know that she's basically, there is only one sister. There's only one girl. She plays both. And she's got like this dual personality. kind of thing. And I guess she gets this doctor comes over. She calls the doctor, and played by George Gaines, which I was like really excited to see. Because all I could think of him is going, "Oh, Mahoney," from. So and it's weird to see him in a serious role because he's always like kind of like a goofball.
Yeah.
And so I see him in there, and so basically, it's a quick one, and it kind of builds up to the point where that she's. She just despises her other personality, and she makes this like voodoo doll type of thing, and. The doctor basically says he's going to come over the next day and kind of, and see her. And she basically commits suicide because, she's so convinced, as they say kind of in the doctor kind of says that this is the most complex and I guess advanced, I forgot the term he exactly uses, but the most dual personality that he's ever seen. To the point of where she has no clue. They say some people with split personalities kind of tell that they have that, and they know, but I guess this one was so far that they had no clue. She had no clue that there was two people. That one person, she literally thought that she had a sister.
Yeah, plot-wise, it was kind of thin.
Yeah.
It was basically a construct to reveal the twist that this person with multiple personalities was the same person. But they didn't do a very good job of it, so like I said, we kind of figured it out from the start.
Yeah, it was, but I'll tell you though, night and day did Karen Black look so different when she had the blonde wig and the little short skirt kind of thing, to be
it's worth watching for her performance alone because it's so fascinating, even after the twist.
Right, and to see George Gaines, you want to see him in a serious role, where he's not Punky's dad or or Sergeant Lassard.
Oh, you know what else I noticed, Brian?
Yeah.
Which is curious is that all of the segments are named after women.
Right, and it's just it's just like I think the name, right? It's
because the first one was Julie, the second one was Millicent and Therese.
Right.
And then the last one is Amelia, which you would know nothing about the segment just from that.
Right. Maybe that's the intent. Maybe because they didn't want to tip the hand in any way, although the second one was unavoidable, I guess. But think about it. If you think of it, it's just Julie is the first one. That's the name. And just names, you have no clue what you're kind of in for. I think if it said like the Sisters of Doom or something, or Twin Trouble, you're gonna, you kind of tip your hand. But this, I think maybe it pulls you in right away to find out, okay, what's this one about,
Mm-hmm.
It's a clever tactic, I guess, for an anthology, some level.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool little things this anthology does different from other ones that I think makes it, maybe that's why it's kind of a classic.
Right, and I think the biggest one is that it doesn't have the wraparound. It doesn't have any of there's no continuity between the three, in any way.
Now, if this had been a theatrical release, they would have put a wraparound.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Or there would have been some kind of way to tie them together. If it wasn't a wraparound, it'd be the way kind of like Trick or Treat did it. How you'd happen to see how they overlapped at the time. Period, or something like that. But yeah, there would definitely have been a wrap. But I think it worked as a TV movie. It probably worked. Like I don't know how they broke it. I'm kind of like actually kind of wish I could have seen this when it first aired on television to see how they played it out. How they advertised it, how they how they set it up. It would have been interesting. But
so the last segment is called Amelia, and again, it's Karen Black, and so she arrives in her apartment building. She's got a package with her, and when she opens it up, there's this little trunk, and inside is what they call a Zuni hunter doll.
Yeah.
And you've probably, if you're any kind of horror fan, you've probably seen this doll. I call it a tiki doll, but that's probably not right.
Right, and I bet you've probably seen it at horror conventions. People probably had model kits of it and toys. You may not have even known what it was from.
Yeah, but it's from this movie. It's very famous. It's like the icon you see whenever you see this movie mentioned.
Right.
Because it's very creepy looking.
I want one now, by the way, now that I saw that.
Yeah, if there's a model or a toy of that, I'm getting one.
Yeah. It's too cool. I'm going to leave the chain on it, though, just in case.
Yeah, leave the chain on it for sure. So she has bought this Zuni hunter doll for someone named Arthur, and she has a phone while she's sitting there opening this thing up. She has a phone call with her mother, and we could tell. And again, this is so cool because you basically only see one side of the conversation.
Yeah,
which is Karen or Amelia, Karen Black's side of the conversation, but yet she conveys through just her side of the conversation that her mom is a really negative, manipulative person.
Right, and total guilt. I mean, I would assume with the guilt that she lays on her, she's got to be a Jewish mother,
Yeah.
as I can relate. And so...
So Amelia has bought this doll. She explains to her mom that she's bought this doll for Arthur's birthday. Obviously, she's seeing Arthur.
Right. Which is funny. She can't even almost she can't even tell her mom honestly that she's dating someone at some level.
Right. Yeah, that's how controlling she is.
Yeah.
And she's a grown woman.
Right.
But so the doll has like a scroll of paper that says something on it, about don't remove the chain because then the spirit will be unleashed. And he's got this little chain on him.
Right.
And as she's upset with her mom, she throws a doll on the table or whatever, and unbeknownst to her, the chain comes off.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So you know something bad's going to happen.
Right.
So she goes to take a bath. When she comes back out, the doll's gone. With every haunted doll show you've ever seen.
Yeah.
When the doll's gone, that's where you're supposed to just leave the apartment,
right,
and go away. But of course, she thinks it just fell off the table. She sees that the chain has fallen off. And so she starts looking underneath the couch, and she reaches her hand under there and gets poked by the spear. And she still thinks it just fell under the couch.
Right, because that's exactly how physics would take that thing, falling off the table and going halfway under a couch.
She's not a physicist. Obviously.
Yeah, obviously not. She doesn't know Julie from the first film.
Yeah,
but
she thinks that she thinks she might have just jammed her hand under there and hit the spear.
Right.
Okay, I can buy that.
Yeah,
I buy that before it's a haunted doll.
Oh, easily. Yeah, because how many times have you done that where you reach under something and you hit the one little spot that's sharp?
So she goes back into the kitchen and notices that one of her knives is missing. And when she comes back out, this thing starts attacking her. And I don't know if I could do a good impersonation of the sound.
Oh, the voice. That was brilliant.
It's sort of like...
It's exactly... It's almost like Dino, like a sinister version of Dino from Flintstones. But it's like...
like a yappy dog, like the little yap dogs, but like on speed. It's just crazy.
You know what it was reminding me of, kind of, and the whole sequence a little bit? Gremlins. You know?
Yeah, you're right.
And I would not be surprised if they got some inspiration for, the sequence in Gremlins where the mother is being attacked. If you think about it, look how similar that is.
You're right. But because what I was about to say was that most of the haunted doll movies that you see, it's a lot of stealth. Like you see the doll run past the hallway.
Yeah, and
then they turn around. Yeah, they turn around. They don't see it. It's hiding. Whereas this one, it's like a freaking rabid animal. It's just like coming at her. It's crazy. And that's what makes it scary to me. So it's like it's creeping. It's not like it's creeping around. It's just attacking her like a rabid raccoon or something.
Yeah, it doesn't give up. I mean, it literally goes. I mean, the size difference is hysterical of how small this doll is compared to a grown woman. But this thing, it goes. I mean, literally, it's going. And the effects on it are not bad for the time period.
No, I was sitting there in amazement, going, man, they did a really good job making this doll seem like it's alive. Like it's like, I guess it's just the way it was cut and the just frantic sound of it. I actually made a haunted doll movie when I was younger, and it was a what was that ventriloquist?
Charlie McCarthy.
Charlie McCarthy.
That thing creeped me out.
Yeah, it was a Charlie McCarthy dummy, and we had fishing line on him, and we taped a knife to his hand, and we did this thing where he rose out of the bed, and we used the fishing line to make it look like, which you couldn't see on camera.
Do you have that still?
No. Oh my god, I wish I still had it. We had even death scenes where we used ketchup for blood and everything, but unfortunately I don't have it. But I thought about it when I was watching this, because I was like, they took this stupid little doll, which is, it's not like Chucky where it has like animatronics in the face and all that stuff. It's just a stupid little almost nutcracker type doll, and made it actually terrifying.
Yeah, and it was funny. There was one sequence where they literally had it kind of like crawl out of the bathtub, And
yeah, she tries to drown it in
Yeah.
the bathtub, which I thought was a cool idea.
yeah, she went. I mean, and she was. I mean, some of her ideas. I mean, she was very resilient through it because I mean, she's getting sliced and diced through this whole thing, and she's coming up with some really creative ways to kind of slow this thing down, and it just doesn't quit. It's almost like you know how like you'll see some movies where like they'll get that pause of where they like knock it and it gets staggered. I don't think this thing ever gets staggered or anything. I mean, it gets temporarily swayed, like it gets locked in a suitcase and within seconds it starts cutting its way out, or it gets drowned, and as soon as she walks out of the bathroom, you see it pop its head over the tub, and it's like this thing never gets really slowed down for more than like 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah. So the final battle, if you will, is she, like Brian said, she's getting sliced out of pieces. She finally manages to grab the thing and hurl it into the oven.
Gremlins.
Yeah, exactly. Turns the oven on, and then it bursts into flames, and black smoke fills the room, and we think, okay, that's the end of it. But there's always a twist, right? So she goes. The next time we cut to Amelia, she's calmly dialing the phone and talking to her mother, and tells her mother that she would like to spend the evening and to come over right away. And this was one of probably the creepiest sequence in the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
We see her now clutching a large butcher knife, and she crouches down like in this almost tribal positions, or like you would imagine the doll would, and is like stabbing the carpet with the knife, just waiting for her mom to enter. And she's got these crazy like needle teeth,
yeah,
sort of
like the doll
like
did.
The tiki doll. Yeah, like the doll did. So she's almost kind of like been possessed or turned into the doll.
Yeah, because I think when it was like there was all the black smoke coming out of the
I
oven.
guess it possessed her.
Yeah, and it's funny. I know this is just one of me thinking, you know, typical me watching this thing and thinking of the weird details in this thing. What happened to the steak? She put a steak in that oven. So that's why the oven was on, which was a clever tool. If you think about it.
It's still in there.
It must be still in there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of funny. So if you think about it, what a simple thing is the fact that oven, literally, because if that little device was not in there, she would have had to first lock this thing in there and then turn the oven on. And remember, in Gremlins, it was a microwave. They could turn it on.
That's just good writing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's like, you know, it's like you think about it, you're like, wow, you're watching her like prepare this meal. And I'm like, first of all, I'm thinking, why the hell is she putting a steak in the oven?
Right.
You know?
Well, that's because there's a good writing. There's a reason for everything.
Right. Good writing trumps culinary expertise, apparently.
Right. So
because that doesn't make sense. But yeah, so that was good.
To everything. Everything's a clue.
Right, and it was smart. It was like, yeah, that's the thing. And once again, you can't say enough about her performance in this, because she's literally acting with a phone and an inanimate object, essentially, that comes alive. I mean, so if you think about it, it's like it was like a one-woman show. It was like a monologue she basically did through the whole thing, but you never felt like that. Like it was really believable that she was talking to someone on the phone. And
yeah, it was great.
And I love when she actually said like, oh, she spoke something to herself. She's like something like, oh, I must have been pricked by this spear or something. it just kind of cracked me up. And actually, one of the funniest sequences that was like, it was actually cringing, because when the doll is trying to cut its way out of the suitcase and it's just stabbing upwards and she's trying to grab hold of it.
Oh my God, what was she doing?
I don't know.
Like, what are you doing, lady? She's trying to grab the knife.
I mean, you figure at least grab a towel, one of the towels there, or something to blood. But and it was just, I was like, oh, and it went on for like about 10, 15 seconds of her just narrowly missing this, and then sure enough, she tries to reach for it and she gets another slice. Yeah, it was a little comical, but mostly because I think the voice of this thing, but most of it was actually, I was actually surprised how non-comical it came across.
No, I was like on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was really good,
and that says a lot, in my opinion, because that, like in Gremlins, you're like laughing the whole time, and in other movies, you're kind of cracking up when there's little creatures like running after, a full-grown person. So it's like, but this one was like done in such a way that, I mean, yeah, now you think back, you may get a little chuckle out of it, but really, at the time you're watching it, you don't get that. It does not play for laughs.
No. Well, I want to track down there was actually a sequel to this called Trilogy of Terror 2, and it also starred the same, not Karen Black, but it starred the same actress for every segment.
Oh, that's it. So I guess whoever came up with these ideas, that was their shtick with this. Would be the same person. Yeah,
but it was also directed by Dan Curtis, and it also featured stories by Richard Matheson, which he did 2 of the 3 segments, and William F. Nolan also assisted in the screenplay stuff. So it has a lot of the same people, but I've never seen the sequel, so I don't know if it's any good or not. But it actually came out in 1995.
Wow, that's actually
That's
I mean, I know. Yeah, now we're saying it's like over 20 years, but it seems a lot closer than you would have thought. Because when did the original come out? 80 something, right?
The original was 1975.
Oh, okay, so it was 70s. Okay.
Yeah, but
that's right. I should have known for the $1 to get 2 root beers at a movie theater.
Yeah, but it brings back the African doll for the 3rd segment.
Oh, really?
In a new story, so I've got to track this one down because I really, really want to see that sequel now.
Well, I'm looking. I'm seeing if it's Tim. You can get it on Amazon Prime and Prime shipping. It's $24.99. It's only on DVD as far as I know, though. But you can get it. They have it on sale, so we can purchase it if we want. I mean, I'd hate to spend $25 on this yet, right now, but that's at least it's available. We can get it if we want to. And they do have, however, the original DVD, they have a special edition of this, and which I got to tell you, I got a gripe right now. I'm looking at Amazon. It says Trilogy of Terror starring Jim Storm. That is a disgrace. That's a slap in the face.
That is a disgrace. That's her boyfriend from the first segment.
Well, I don't know who that man is.
Not boyfriend. Yeah. Not boyfriend. Her. God.
Yeah.
He's not her boyfriend.
Yeah.
They're creepy drug rape stalker.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So the fact that he got top billing on it, I mean, I know, granted, when you open it up, you get a little bit more detail to the movie, but I'm looking at it, and the first thing it literally says, Trilogy of Terror starring Jim Storm. And that poor Karen Black, I swear to God, that is the biggest slap in the face you could ever give.
And nobody knows who Jim Storm is.
Exactly.
People have at least heard of Karen Black.
Yeah. And
most people.
And just so you know, 362 customer reviews on Amazon for this movie. 4.5 out of 5. That's good.
That just goes to show you. It goes to show you. It's a really good anthology.
And you know what? And so it's funny. I quickly looked at a review, and someone wrote, good old-fashioned horror movie that didn't need a lot of blood and gore to make it good. And that's a perfect summation you could give to this film. I mean, even when she was getting sliced and diced at the end, the blood was really almost non-existent. Yeah, I mean.
But it just goes to show you, you can take, on the surface, on paper, might look like a mediocre film, but you've got such a brilliant writer in Richard Matheson. You've got a good director. You've got a brilliant actress. They can elevate whatever they do into something bigger than what it would seem like just looking at it on a sheet of paper.
Right. And
and that's what happened with this movie.
Yeah, I was so glad that you decided to pick that, because we originally were thinking of, we had both watched, I rewatched and Tim watched for the first time, the Funhouse Massacre, but we decided, since I did go into it a little bit on a previous episode, we would wait until we actually did that episode as a full thing. I mean, we'll eventually, I'm sure, get to it. But Tim had a good point. He's like, well, let's do something different. I'm glad he picked this movie, because it was for, he went back to the 70s, and to see something that still holds up well today, other than obviously the certain factors that would be like, someone watch it, they're like, what is that guy doing to develop that picture? Why didn't he just take it with his cell phone? It's like, but
yeah, but I don't mind that kind of stuff.
No,
if it's a product of its time. In fact, I enjoy it sometimes because you get to see like the cool drive-in theater that you don't see those anymore. I thought that was neat.
Plus, we're not that far removed from where that. I mean, like 1975. Okay, granted, I was 3 years old, but I remember when things were not $500 going to a night of the movies. It's like, I remember actually back in the day when, to get a soda at the movies, you didn't necessarily even have to go to the snack bar. They had those machines where you could like put like 50 cents in, and the cup would shoot out, and then the ice would come out, and then your soda would come out. So it's like, I remember like back in those days. So to see that is kind of like, and like I said, there was a drive-in movie theater that was active still in my time that I could have frequented more often. But,
I went and saw the earliest drive-in theater experience I can remember is I went and saw Cannonball Run 1 and 2 double feature.
That's cool seeing that in a car too,
Yeah, I believe it was Cannonball Run 1 and 2, and I believe I also saw Superman 3 at the drive-in, I want to say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we actually had a drive-in in town that stayed open for a long time until a hurricane blew the screen down, is when they finally closed up.
I'm surprised, that, I mean, I know Alamo Drafthouse does their special events, like, they have, I know they've shown Jaws, like, where they've set up an outdoor screen in front of a lake where people sit in inner tubes and watch Jaws. They set up special events like that, but it'd be kind of cool to make a, do a good drive-in theater, to just get that retro effect, I mean, hey, you know what? Why not take like a giant, one of those giant like aircraft buildings, where they have those massive things like where you can, or like a mall-sized structure and literally just make an indoor drive-in, just where the cars can drive in.
Did you see the plans for that? They have one.
Oh, they do?
Mm-hmm. Oh. It's an indoor drive-in theater.
Damn it! Our Kickstarter was too late.
Yeah. So your idea's been taken.
Damn.
I don't know if it's an actual like you drive your car in, or if it's just it's designed. It's like an indoor, and it's designed to look like it's outside.
Oh, like that thing at Disney, like Disney.
Yeah, sort of like that thing at Disney, but it was on a bigger scale.
See, well, now we'll see if that's what they did. Then my idea is you literally drive your car in. So there we go. Right, Kickstarter back on. Okay.
There you go. So I guess we'll wrap it up. Drop us a line, civilgorepodcast@gmail.com. Look us up on Facebook and Twitter at civilgorepod. And hoping to hear some feedback from you guys as to our idea of submitting a movie that you want us to watch and guess what it's about before we see it.
And we got one.
We've already had, we got one submission so far, so just keep sending those in because we'll probably do those when we get back from our trips.
Yeah, because that would be funny. And the one we got so far, I won't say it yet until we actually go through with this thing. That I already have a great idea for what I think it is, and I'm probably going to be very disappointed when it turns out not to be that. But
it should be funny though.
It would be. If not, that's Kickstarter number 12.
Yeah. So as a reminder, we'll be back next week with another mini-sode, this time on Local Ghost, which should be really cool. I think you guys will enjoy that.
Yeah,
one.
that was actually a fun one to record too. I actually had a ball, and that's one I could see us doing. Because I know my area Long Island is like filled with paranormal stories, so it's like I only touched on a handful, and there's so many more. So we could always do that as a couple of do a couple of those mini-sodes down the road.
Yep. All right, guys, we'll see you back here next week.
Talk to you later.
Hey, guys, just to interrupt the show real quick, this is Future Tim. After we edited the show, we realized that we had left off the beer pairing and trivia question, the horror, so we couldn't let that slide. So I'm just jumping in to go over the trivia question and beer pairing for this week. The beer pairing we went with was the Sierra Nevada Black IPA in honor of Miss Karen Black. And this one's very easy to find. It's one of the house beers that I always have on hand. So go to your grocery store, find that one. It's available pretty much everywhere. And it's pretty good. For the trivia question last week, we asked about some unusual aspect of the filming of The Witch. And the answer to that is that it was shot in a 1:33:1 aspect ratio, which is fairly rare these days. And they did that to make the movie seem more claustrophobic. It made the trees look taller and tower over the actors. It's pretty cool. So kind of unique, and if you're a film tech buff, you might enjoy that. Now, I believe it was presented in 166. A lot of that technical stuff's over my head. So for the trivia question this week, we know Trilogy of Terror was directed by Dan Curtis and featured writing by Richard Matheson. And we know the same is true of Trilogy of Terror 2, which came out many years later. But there was another film that was also directed by Dan Curtis and also featured writing by Richard Matheson and was also in an anthology. What was that movie? Now, we'll have another mini-sode episode next week, but the week following, we'll give you the answer to that trivia question. And, of course, give you another beer pairing and trivia question for the new film we cover.